Okay. So what we're going to cover is JavaScript fundamental for this class. Usually JavaScript, it's a very vast language. There's so many things. And there's so many versions and all that. So we're going to cover only like the latest version of JavaScript. Um, and so there's no confusion. Uh, and then, you can build small games with JavaScript. You can build a calculator, you can build a rock, paper, scissors game, things like that. You can also, I will also cover some HTML, and there's something called Flexbox. This is pretty important. Um, so I'll do like a crash course on HTML and how to arrange your elements on the screen, which is required to build any kind of a HTML web-based application, right? Um, so like for a lot of design stuff, this would be very helpful because Flexbox lets you flexibly place elements on a screen. Uh, it's a native functionality of CSS. And then we will also cover something called a React. This is a framework I'll discuss later on. It's a JavaScript framework. And then at the end of it, we'll be able to build a simple game using that. All right. Any questions? All right. In this class, there's no repeat people, so I'm not gonna go here. Some project ideas you can have. I mean, you don't have to decide right now, but later on when you're ready, probably middle of the class, you can decide what kind of application you want to build, whether it's a simple game like a tic-tac-toe or um, memory game or whatever. I'll give you some idea once you are there, right? Make sure you pick something that you can finish. As I said, assignment, due by the next class, so make sure you finish it. You can just send, let's say if you do it through the CodePen, the one I told you about, you can save it online and then just save the URL. You can submit the URL so I can take a look at, okay. Um, and as I said, anything, I'll put the video recording and schedule everything on the Zoom. Sorry, Discord. I haven't really worked fully on the Discord yet, but I'll do that once I get a little bit of time this week. Yeah, that's about it. There's something else. Okay, any questions? All right. Um, so let's get started. Let me. You can go to this website. I'll put it in the chat. I pasted the link in your chat. I'm gonna share my screen. All right. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So do one thing. You should go here and sign up for this. I'll give you maybe 5 minutes. Do a sign up. This way, what happens is that all the work you do, you can save it on the cloud so that you can review it next time. Okay. I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Do we do the tour thing?
You don't have to do. I'll explain to you. You can skip the tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do I have to sign up with school email
I would say
or
don't just use your personal email. Yeah, just use a personal email. Yeah.
thank you.
I already used my school email.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, ultimately, what I want you to do, just in case if once you leave the school, you don't have access to your school email address, you don't want to get stuck. Yeah, that's the only reason. But otherwise, it doesn't matter. All right, done. Okay. All right. Is anyone still working on it? All right. Okay. Uh, let's do this. So let me give you a little tour on what it is, right? What this is. So if you come here, right, you click on the coding, start coding, and then you'll get this three sections here, right? This is called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The idea is, you know, uh, typically when you build an application, you 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 build it on your local machine and control it there, right? But this is in cloud, which means this is something called a code playground, which means you can, one single place you can write your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And this tool actually combines it and then renders the page here at the bottom. Okay, that's the beauty of it. So let's try it out. So if I simply do, let's say div hello world, I do this, you can see it is rendering the page here, right? You see that? Try this out. And then you can uh, you can also, CSS, which means, let's say if I want to style every div with color red, right? So I can say div, I want the color. Color means is a font color to be red, okay? When I do that, you can see that the font color is red, okay? You can also say, I don't know, border. It's 1 pixel solid blue, okay? It's going to be one ugly element. Then you can see the border as being added. So this is pretty cool. You can just build a web page without any, you know, any tools. So that's the beauty of it. All right. The JavaScript part is we're gonna start with. We're not gonna do HTML right now. We're just gonna do JavaScript for now. So just try this and see how it works. I'll give you a few minutes to try that. All right. Any questions? All right. So now, so this is HTML and CSS, right? And you can actually hide stuff. So let's say if I don't want to look at HTML or CSS, I can simply hide it, right? So I'm going to hide it. I'm going to expand the JavaScript section, right? So all I see is JavaScript section. Now, yes, I can make this, you know, uh, you know, uh, dynamically changes color. I can add some JavaScript, but I'm not going to do that. For JavaScript, we're going to learn JavaScript in isolation, so without HTML and CSS. Okay, because oftentimes when you mix it right away, it's more confusing for learners, right? Students. So I prefer to keep it separate. Okay, so we're going to learn JavaScript as a language, and to do that, there's something else. So there's something called console. You can see this console here. So this is where it renders. This is almost like a browser, right? Um, but if I want to play around with JavaScript, I would need to have a console. So if I click on this console, I can show and hide this console. You can see that, right? Then I can expand it and hide this render section. Okay, so now all I see is console. Let's try that. Everyone can do that? If you can let me know, right? So we can fix that. Awesome. At any time, if you if you can do something, just stop and let me know, right? Because what's happened is if you miss one step, then what happens that then the next step becomes more difficult because you don't understand the first step, right? So it's better to just stop and tell me that, okay, it's not working for me, so I can help you get out of that, right? So okay, so let's write our first JavaScript code. Okay, so um, we're gonna write simple message. So if you want to write message to JavaScript in the console, you can say console because it's a console, right? Console dot log, and I can say hello world. Okay, and you can see it types it. The problem is if I change this, it automatically runs it again. And so every time I change something, you can see it's giving me the history, right? Now, history is fine, but I don't want it to while I'm typing, because what if I make a mistake? Okay. And then it would say, oh, it's an error, but it's not a mistake. I would just middle of typing, right? So this is kind of not good. So what I prefer to do is if I go into settings, okay, then there's something called behavior. So click on the behavior. All right, so go to settings, click on the behavior, and then you have three options here. Auto save, auto update preview. This something it's on by default. I usually like to turn off. And that's it. So click on the settings, go to the behavior tab, and the middle area, which says auto update preview, I turn it off. So what happens now, as you can see, if I type something, it does not automatically compile and show me here, right? If I want to get rid of this, there's a clear button, so I can click here, so it clears it, right? So I can type what I need to type without, seeing lots of errors, right? Then when I'm ready, all I have to do is this button shows up now called run. So I just click on run. When I do that, it runs this and prints it here, right? Every time just clear it so you know. So here now I'm gonna say hello world, run, and it does that. Okay, let's try a few times, see how it works. Let me know if you have any questions. So console is, in a way, is just there for you to debug, okay? You're not gonna use this in the actual application, but it will help you to debug anything, right? If I create a variable, I want to know the value of it, I just console it, so then it will print the value. And so console is very useful in that sense. Okay, so you're going to be using a lot of consoles. So anytime you want to print something, you just say console log, and whatever thing you put in, whatever string you put in, it shows up here. It's simple. You can actually do multiple. So let's say I can do like this, 1, 2, 3, whatever, right? And it would print all of that. So you can put the comma and put different values here as well. Okay. So this is very useful. Let's try that. All right. If this is working for everyone, let's move on. So one of the first thing you do in learning any programming language is how to define a variable. Variable, the name variable, which means something that changes, right? Variable, which means something that varies. It's nothing but a placeholder. So you have some value you want to persist in your code. You can create a variable. So let's say I create a variable called name, and I'm just going to use my name. Okay. So this is a variable. So let's understand what it is. Name is a variable. This is the value of the variable. Just like how you say, what is your name? My name is Joe. So you can say name equal to Joe, right? And as you can see, there's like double quotes. It's surrounded by double quotes. And that means it's a string. This is a string. Again, well, I haven't taught you this, but yeah, if you do slash and then double slash forward slash and then something, this is almost like a comment, right? Which means it's not part of the code, but you can write something inside the code to let, for your own tracking, right? And lastly, there is let. So let is a keyword that lets you create a variable. So let, lets you create a variable. Okay. So if I want to create another variable called let age. Okay. Now age is a number, right? So let's say 21. Obviously, I'm not 21. I'm just randomly picking a number. So as you can see, I did not put quotes around it because it's a number. But name is not a number, so I would use string. Okay, so this is the difference between a string, which has quotes, and a number, which doesn't have quotes, right? So I've created two variables. And then I can print them. So if I say console.log, you can say my name is, and then remember, you can say put commas, right? And then here I would say name. So what this would do is it will print this, and also name is a variable, which is nothing but this, right? Because I did not put the quotes around it, it's using this variable, right? If I run this, it would say my name is this, right? Any questions? Is it working for you guys?
What's the difference between like the two quotations and like the one quotation we were using earlier?
Oh, there's not much difference. You can use either. So what you were saying is this, right? So you can use single quotation or you can use double quotation. There's no difference. It's just a preference. Sometimes, let's say, and this is kind of an interesting use case. If I want to say that this is an example of double quote, okay? And if I print this, so because it's a double quote, I can use it, right? Like this, right? So for using quotes, I can use it like this, or I can use double quotes here outside and then single quote inside. Oops. Right? I cannot, however, if I use, let's say, double quotes which is part of a string, let's say, right? Something like this, it would create a problem, right? So you can mix it, if the quotes are part of your, string, you have to use different quotes for around and inside. All right. There is actually another way of doing this. I think it's like this, which is a little bit complex. Oh, I think it's the other way around. I actually forgot. Let's see. Escaping double quotes JavaScript. It is the backward slash. Oh, okay. So forward slash. Okay, so you'd use you would use a forward slash and this, and then forward slash and this. Right. So this actually is a little bit, this actually converts a double quotes into single quote. I think it's an issue with the code pen. It should actually show you the double quotes, but it's somehow not. So that's an issue. But anyway, this is how you can have a quotes inside a quote, which is, you know, yeah, any questions?
No.
All right. Okay, so this is how you can create a variable. Again, to create a variable, It's simple. Let name of the variable, right? Age, equal sign, and the value, right? And then semicolon. The semicolon is like a end of the line. You may or may not use it. If you don't use it, it's fine as well. But I always recommend just put a semicolon, right? So this is how you can define a variable. You can change the variable as well. So let's say if I define a variable called count, okay? And count is 1, all right? And next line, I can change the count value equal to 2, which is fine. But if you can see in terms of the order, how it's defined, if I console log a count here, okay, it will be 1, right? Because it's right after I define the variable. But if I take it from here and then put it here, right? The value has changed now to 2. If I run this again, it should show 2, right? So from line 2 to 3, it was 1. Then it's changed to 2, which means anything after that, it would be 2. Because it's a variable, you can change its value, right? However, there is a way to actually freeze the value, so you cannot change it. To freeze the value, I wouldn't say freeze the value. Let's say if I want to define a constant. Okay, a constant, for example, pi. Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna say const pi is equal to 3.14, right? It's a fixed value. This will never change. You should not change it as well. So that's why you put a constant, which means I will never want to change this value. And if you accidentally change it, give me an error, right? That's what it means. So let's say if I try to change the value to 2, and then I'm just going to run it. I'm not even going to console log it. It's going to give me an error. Say assignment to a constant variable. So there are 2 ways to define a variable. One using let, where you can change the value. One using const, where you can't change the value. Okay. Any questions? All right. So that is defining variables, which is pretty simple. Let variable name equal to the value, okay? Or const variable name equal to the value. Okay, so far so good. Now let's understand different data types. Remember, we looked at 2. If I want to define a string, for example, we did name, right? Name, right? So hey Jay, you just joined.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I got the times mixed up.
Oh, okay, no problem. How about I'm gonna share this URL. I'll put it in the chat. Hold on. So you can open it, and there is a button on the left side called Start Coding. And let me just go through it so you would understand quickly. So if I go to the website CodePen, right? I would see this button Start Coding, right? If I click on it, I would see there's 3 tabs, right? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what do you want to do? Just drag this line and only show HTML for now. All right. And then there's something called console at the bottom here. So what you want to do is drag this also. And so you can see that they both have gray colors, right? So I can write my JavaScript here, and then the result would show up here. The one little caveat is what you also want to do. Let me know once you're here, and I'll show you the next step.
All right, I'm gonna check my internet right now.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I'm recording this session, so you can always review it later on. Anyway, we have only few minutes left. So I'll put the link in the canvas, so you can review. I'll put the video on the canvas so you can review it. Okay, for the next class. All right. So yeah. So let's quickly look at different data types. There are multiple different data types, but there's like core data type, what they call primitive data types. So one we looked at is string. So when you have quotes around, that is automatically a string, right? If you have no string, but it's a numerical value, right? It's a number. So again, I'm going to put a comment. This is a comment, which is not part of the code. So I can say this is a number. This is a string. Okay. And there is also another value called Boolean. So for example, if I want to know if is raining, right? A true or false. So right now it's raining in the Bay Area, so I'm going to say true. As you can see, it's not a string because there's no quotes, and it's not a number, right? So it's something else. It all has only 2 values, true or false. So this is called Boolean, has only 2 values, true or false. All right. Any questions? There's also one which is kind of weird value. So let's say if I have, if I define a variable, okay, and I decide not to use equal sign, I can just do this, all right? I did not set any value. So if I console log this, what am I going to get? It will say undefined. Believe me or not, this is a type, undefined, which means I've created a variable, but not set the value. It's almost like a placeholder. Okay. So sometimes, you create a variable, you haven't set the value. You want to check if I set the value or not. You can compare it with undefined and see if it's empty. It's almost like a empty value, right? So 4 different data types: string, number, Boolean, and undefined. All right. So that is about it for today. Next class, we will look at more on this data types and some interesting operations on data type. Like I can do the math, right? Add numbers or multiply it and things like that. So you can do mathematics. You can also do some string operations and things like that. So it should be fun. Yeah. Some manipulation of numbers and strings. All right. There's no homework today because we just covered some basic stuff. Hopefully next class, when we cover something more, I'll give you homework. All right. Any questions?
No, but thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that's about it, folks. Yeah, I'll see you guys next class, next Tuesday.
Oh, on Canvas, I think it said that there was like a discussion for like introduction or something. Is that not homework or
Let me check. I think I copied from the previous class. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll remove it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.